I don't want to make it come off as though I think that I could do a much better job than the guys who were on the ESPN broadcast last night. But honestly, I think I know that I could do a better job than the guys who were on the ESPN broadcast last night. Look, there's a reason that ESPN went out and got Troy Aikman and got Joe Buck to do their games from now on, because really for the last, if you want to go as far as back to when Mike Tirico was doing the job, look, there's a reason all the people, whether you want to talk about Mike Tirico, whether you want to talk about Maria Taylor, whether you want to talk about sideline analysts, whether you want to talk about studio analysts, whether you want to talk about former players who become analysts. There's a reason all of them for football go to NBC or CBS and leave ESPN. Because ESPN does not know what they are doing. And this isn't just because of like the production side. This isn't because of the weird, wacky cartoons that they play at the beginning of games. This is purely about what the commentators are saying. Look, your commentators should be commentating the game. When you were listening to the game last night, and if you didn't watch the Seahawks-Bears last night, that's good on you, because I shouldn't have watched it. That was probably a waste of my time. It was two teams who, A, either are going to play shitty quarterbacks in the regular season, or B, just weren't playing any of their real players. And it was weird, too, because ESPN ran that DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett were going to be inactive for the game. And then the next series, Steve Levy is like, oh, well, this just in, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Like, no, you have to have that information correct. Now, if they lied to you, that's even worse, because they shouldn't even feel comfortable enough lying to you about something like that. I want to get into another thing that Steve Levy was talking about on the broadcast last night. This whole notion, and it's like a 2-minute thing that he is talking about during the game last night. This whole notion that the Seahawks players in the locker room grew tired of Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner. That's literally what Steve Levy is suggesting last night, and Louis Riddick and Dan Orlovsky are right there with him in encouraging the suggestion. Steve Levy goes on to say things like, yeah, sometimes the coach, and I don't remember if it was Levy or if it was Riddick or if it was Orlovsky who was saying this exactly, but whether it was Levy or former players, it doesn't matter, because the point is possibly the stupidest point I think I've ever fucking heard in my life. Going on to say things like, oh, well, sometimes players grow tired of hearing the same voice from the coaching position. Sometimes that same exact thing can happen from your leaders. And then they go on to say things like, it was time for those guys to leave, so now that these players don't have to listen to those guys, and this franchise doesn't have to be ran by Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner anymore. Oh, I'm sorry. The two guys who literally, when they got to the franchise, they became a Super Bowl contender. Players don't have to listen to that anymore? Oh, boo-hoo, that they had to listen to two guys who actually changed the fortunes of this franchise. Like, what the fuck are we talking about on this broadcast? No, it wasn't just Russell Wilson, and it wasn't just Bobby Wagner. They had the Legion of Boom. They had Marshawn Lynch. They had incredible receivers that played well within the system that Russell Wilson was leading in Seattle. But to ever fucking suggest that players were growing tired of Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner, what the fuck are we talking about? Bobby Wagner is easily the best linebacker in Seattle Seahawks history. Russell Wilson is easily the best quarterback in Seattle Seahawks history. This is my favorite thing to bring up to Seattle Seahawks fans, or just people who talk about the Seahawks in general. The Seahawks were going to give the keys to Matt fucking Flynn. They had given the keys to Tavares fucking Jackson. Rest in peace. They had given the keys to Charlie fucking Whitehurst. Clipboard fucking Jesus. Like, what the fuck are we talking about on ESPN? And what the fuck do we think is gonna, like, who do we think is gonna agree with us if we're saying things like, oh yeah, Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson are out of the building now, so now these players will have fresh voices to go to, and they'll know who to talk to and won't get tired of Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner. That's the stupidest shit I've ever heard fucking thrown out there. That's the dumbest fucking shit ever. And look, this has been a problem with ESPN for years. I think ESPN, and this is not something I know, this is just something that's off the top of my head, and this is something just based on my own habits. I am much more willing to not watch a football game if it's on ESPN than I am to watch it if it is on ESPN. The only way I watch ESPN football games now is if the TV is on fucking mute. That doesn't happen when I watch Sunday Night Football. That doesn't happen when I watch Thursday Night Football. That doesn't happen when I watch football on Sunday when I wake up. That doesn't fucking happen anywhere else but ESPN. And it needs fixed. The NFL needs to either cut ties with ESPN or they need to put their own people in the broadcast booth for that broadcast. Because what they have set up right now in ESPN is possibly the dumbest shit I've ever seen.